Hi there, Richard Fulmer here, and welcome to another Richard's Rock Rambles. So we're carrying on with our blues rock journey, and today we're looking at a guy who was just incredible in so many ways, and unfortunately no longer with us, was taken far too quickly from this earth, and one of the greats as far as guitaring goes. A great frontman, a great singer, guitarist, and all-round nice guy. I'm talking about Stevie Ray Vaughan. Unfortunately passed away in 1990 in a helicopter accident while he was on tour. Really sad story. And the ironic thing is that he just got himself right. He had a few demons in his life, one of them being alcohol and drugs and what have you. And he was just coming right. He'd come off the back of a really great album as well. And fate had something else in store for him. So we lost him in 1990, and such a pity because I think he would have gone on to even greater things. So not too many studio albums. There were only 6 studio albums and 1 live album. And there have been a few things released after his death, obviously. Posthumously, a couple of collections and what have you. But the 6 that he produced, or released, I should say, were amazing. And he came around at a time when the whole blues genre was in a bit of a slump, and there really wasn't much going on. And he was this new shining light, had his own sound, own style. He did borrow from some of the older guys. I mean, there was a lot of Hendrix in his playing, but he still had his own sound, which is great. So we're going to go through the ones that I have, and we'll take it from there. As I said, born in October the 3rd, 1954, and he passed away on August the 27th, 1990. He was born in Dallas, Texas. Appeared 6 studio albums, as well as one with his brother, Jimmy Vaughan. Jimmy Vaughan, of course, was with the Fabulous Thunderbirds, also has a very successful solo career. He's been on quite a few of the Eric Clapton Crossroads festivals as well. And that album he did with his brother was called Family Style. Slightly different to what Stevie would have done on his own, but still a good album to get hold of. He also appeared on David Bowie's Let's Dance album, famously. Played guitar on that album. I think Bowie wanted him to tour with him, but he decided no, he was rather going to concentrate on his solo career, which I think was the right move. He also appeared with Albert King on an album called In Session. Of course, Albert King was one of the old blues masters, along with Muddy Waters and B.B. King and Buddy Guy and those guys. So, and Albert King was one of Stevie Ray Vaughan's heroes, so it was quite cool to see the two of them play. It was especially filmed for television, and there's a CD as well that you can get, and that's called In Session, and that came out in 1983. And that's also one to check out for. There's also a few notable DVDs, one of which I'm going to show you just now. There's another one called Live from Austin, Texas, 1983 and 1989. That's available. That's one of the official ones. I think there's also some unofficial stuff, and there's lots to see on YouTube as well, obviously. And I think more recently, there's, I think it was 2015 or 2014, there was a documentary called The Rise of a Texas Bluesman, which goes right through his whole career. And that's really interesting to see. Some good interviews in there with his brother, people that he played with, his other band members like Chris Layton and Tommy Shannon and Reese Winans, the keyboardist. A really good documentary to check out if you can. So let's jump into the ones that I have, and I'll just briefly chat about them. I'm going to start off with an album that came out, I think this was in the early 80s. This was 83. And this was Texas Flood, his very first album. Stunning album. I mean, this guy, when you listen to this album, you can see what an impact he made, especially with his guitar styling. Like I said, there was a bit of Hendrix, you could hear, but very much his own man. There's some great tracks on here. Love Struck Baby, that became a hit. Pride and Joy, Texas Flood, Tell Me, Testify, Rude Mood, Mary Had a Little Lamb, that was also a great track on here. Dirty Pool, I'm Crying, and Lenny, which is an instrumental, which was really... This guy could do searing blues rock. He could also do very mellow, very sad sort of tracks, very moody tracks, stuff that'll make you cry. I mean, he was that good. He could go from one extreme to the other. And this one's also got some bonus tracks. There's an interview with Stevie Ray Vaughan, Testify Live, Mary Little Lamb Live, and Wham Live. So on this album, he had Tommy Shannon on bass. I think Tommy Shannon had played with Johnny Winter in the early 70s. Chris Layton on drums, great drummer. Very small kit, but a very, very good drummer. And Reese Winans wasn't in the band at this stage. He would come in later on. Keyboard, so it was basically a trio in the early days. And there's a great shot of old Stevie over there. Always had a ready smile on his face. Such a nice guy as well. Always had time for people, fans and what have you. Just an all-round nice guy. There he is it's Chris Layton, and that's Tommy Shannon over there with a beret on his head. So the first album did pretty well, actually. Like I said, it gave the whole blues genre an injection. And this is one to check out. The second one is my favorite. This one's called Couldn't Stand the Weather. Had a great cover there. This had an amazing version of Voodoo Child, Slight Return, the Hendrix track. And he puts his own stamp on it with this. That became a crowd favorite, and he would always have to play it at his concerts. Scuttle Button, also really good on here, a nice finger picking style. He had a really fast guitar style when he wanted to. The title track, Couldn't Stand the Weather. The Things That I Used to Do, which is a great slow blues number with some amazing guitar work. Cold Shot, that's one of my favorites as well. I was briefly in a covers band, and that was one of the tracks that we covered. And a great song to do. Tin Pan Alley, Honeybee, and Stan's Swang, which had more of a sort of a jazzy feel to it. If there's anything in here to show you. This isn't the remastered one, so there's not much inside to show you. But nevertheless, this is a great album. There's him with Tommy Shannon. Sorry, Chris Layton at the back. Couldn't Stand the Weather. One to check out. Then his third album was called Soul to Soul. At this stage, he was having a bit of a problem with alcohol. He was starting to get involved in that scene, so he wasn't at his best around this time. And this was 1985. So just 2 years after his debut, getting a bit of a success, and touring was quite hectic, and I think things were just getting to him. And the drugs and the booze. Say What was a good track. Looking Out the Window, Look at Little Sister, that's also a cool song. Ain't Gonna Give Up on Love. Change It, that was very good. Empty Arms, Come On, Part 3, and Life Without You. There's a shot of the guys there. Those are the three band members. And that's Stevie on the front leaning against there, looking very sort of Wild West. Not a bad album, but not my favorite of Stevie Ray Vaughan. And around this time, there was a live album that came out as well. I don't have that. But when you listen to that live album, you can see his head's not in the right space. It's a bit messy in parts. Still great guitar work, don't get me wrong. But to me, it wasn't the best live album that it could have been. And then we go to 1988. And this is probably one of his strongest albums. He managed to beat the booze and the drugs, and he'd come back in a strong way and produce a really great album in step. I really love this album. I don't think there's a bad track on here. The House is Rockin', which is a good up-tempo rocker with great guitar work. Crossfire, Tightrope, Let Me Love You Baby, Leave My Girl Alone, with great vocals by Stevie Ray Vaughan. That's the other thing. Along with Hendrix, these guys didn't think much of their voices, but to me, his voice was just as good as his guitar playing. Travis Walk, Wall of Denial, Scratch and Sniff, Love Me Darling, and Riviera Paradise, which is an amazing instrumental, which is almost got a sort of a jazzy feel to it, but not really jazz. It's just got a sound all of its own, Riviera Paradise. And this has got a few bonus tracks as well. There's another interview with Stevie Ray Vaughan, House is Rockin' Live, Life Without You Live. And This was, I think, Instead Yard won his second Grammy Award for Best Contemporary Blues Recording. So, a really good album to check out. And let's just see, I don't know if you can see that. There's a shot of the guys. Stevie with his hat on. He always wore a hat, or mostly wore a hat. And there's a great shot of him with his trusty Fender Strat. That wasn't the one that was quite worn. There was another one which was really worn out. That's him standing next to some of his guitars. I still have the news clipping of when he passed. I couldn't believe it, when he passed. And that wasn't long after this album, actually. So that was In Step. Then after he died, they were releasing quite a few albums posthumously and stuff that they'd found in the vaults and what have you. And one of them was an album called The Sky is Crying, which is really good. If you're looking for something beyond the official studio albums, this is one to check out. Boot Hill, The Sky is Crying, Empty Arms, Little Wing, the Hendrix track, beautiful on there. Wham, May I Have a Talk with You, Close to You, Chitlin's Con Con, or also a great track with some amazing guitar work. So Excited, and Life by the Drop, which when you listen to that track and you listen to the lyrics, it's quite sad when you realize what had happened soon after. It's, Living Life by the Drop. And that's the band there. That's Reese Winans on keyboards. Am I right? Yes. Tommy Shannon. And that's Tommy Shannon. That's Chris Layton. Get them right. Of course, Reese Winans is now playing with Joe Bonamassa on keyboards. Seasoned muso. All these guys have gone on to other things after he died, but I think all of them will agree that the best time they ever had in their musical career was being part of Stevie Ray Vaughan's band. Then there's a live album called Stevie Ray Vaughan and Double Trouble live at Carnegie Hall. That one there. It's also a cool album to get hold of. Scuttlebutting, Testifying, Love Struck Baby, Honeybee, Cold Shot, COD, Lenny, Rude Mood. Excellent album. Really good. And well recorded as well. There is some live stuff from Montreux as well that you can get. I think CD and DVD. And the first time he went to Montreux, he was actually booed by the audience. If you can imagine Stevie Ray Vaughan being booed by the audience. Such an incredible musician. But I think there was... it was a very laid-back Montreux, and he came on with his band, and they just let rip, and the crowd didn't like that for whatever reason. He came back a few years later, once he was established, and was riding high, and he was adored by the fans. So, it just shows that you can go from there to there in a short space of time. There's a really great DVD called Stevie Ray Vaughan and Double Trouble live at the El Macombo from... That's that one there. And this was in the early days of Stevie Ray Vaughan's career. And this is so full of energy. And I mean, he does the whole Hendrix thing, playing behind his head, playing with his teeth. He had all the moves on stage. He was a consummate musician, besides being a great player. And this is definitely one to check out live at the El Macombo. I've watched this quite a few times. I think out of the live DVDs, this is probably the one to go for. And then there was a really nice box set which comes with a DVD. And I think this was in the early 2000s, or maybe even on the year 2000. This one here. And this one is called Stevie Ray Vaughan Live and Double Trouble. The box set, 3 CDs plus 1 DVD, over 4 hours of music. So you get your money's worth with this box set. Comes with discs inside. There's a really nice booklet with some great photographs. There's Stevie without a hat. He had a sort of a beret back in the day. And all sorts of information. Great shots. Telling you about all the albums. You can still find this. I think this might still be in print. It's really worth getting. One of the better box sets that I own. Stevie Ray Vaughan. And that's what I have as far as Stevie Ray Vaughan goes. Great loss to music. I wish he was still around. As I say, gave blues a nice injection. And there we go. Not many albums, but I think what he did became iconic. So please guys, if you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe down below. Any comments, more than welcome. There's another top 10 songs episode coming up, and we're going to be covering the great American power trio who then went on to more commercial stuff, Grand Funk. So look out for that. And the next blues rock, I think we're going to have a look at that great British band, Bad Company. Have yourselves a great week. Take it easy. I'll catch you soon. Ciao.